Welcome to a special edition of Howe's Things, a podcast and radio show from the David A. Howe Public Library, recorded right here in Wellsville, New York. I'm Nick Gunning, and I'm joined by my old friend Malik Acosta. Malik, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
I was trying to think what we were talking about the last time you were here, and I'm pretty sure it was Poetry Month.
Yes.
Was that the Phyllis Wheatley episode that we did?
I'm pretty sure it was.
I mixed them all up in my head, like
Me too.
what order we do them in. But
Yes.
Anyway, always good to have you back. I'm excited about our topic today. It's Black History Month. We're going to be talking about author Nic Stone, who I just saw at ALA.
Yes.
Had you read her before we started doing this episode?
No, I had never read any of her material. I had seen an interview by her.
Okay.
Because she was on the banned book list.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So,
I think Dear Martin was on. Wasn't it Dear Martin that was on the list?
Yep, Dear Martin.
Yeah.
So I had kind of seen that story floating around.
Yeah.
But I had never read any of her material. And lo and behold, we, author focus on her. So, I get to dive in. And
Absolutely.
It was definitely a pleasure.
Yep. Yeah, it was. All right. We'll dig into that in a minute. But before we do, let's crack open our books and see where our bookmarks are at. Malik, what is on your reading list at the moment?
Actually, the last thing I read right before I started Nic Stone was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
a biography.
Yeah. You did a staff pick on that.
I did.
I remember that. Yeah, okay.
And that book was so much information
Yeah.
and spirituality in that book.
Really?
It really was.
Oh,
You
okay. No.
wouldn't expect it to be what it was. But
Interesting.
It was almost like reading a work from maybe a Buddhist monk or something.
Oh,
Because just is a lot of stories, a lot of traveling.
okay.
And every lesson learned, he kind of correlates it
Oh.
with a life lesson. And
So it's more like
that's basically what green lights mean. It's
Okay.
like, going through life and catching the green lights.
Okay. I guess I thought it was more just a traditional memoir, but this is more like a philosophy kind of book, would you say?
It's basically all that in one.
Okay.
It's basically
All right.
that in one.
Did you read it or did you do the audiobook? I've heard.
I read it.
Okay. I've heard good things about the audiobook because I think he reads it.
Oh, really?
So-
I would definitely, just to read it or just to hear him read it,
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to hear the stories coming from his voice. Because actually, I watched a couple interviews when he was talking about the book.
Yeah.
And he shared a couple of the stories, and it was so entertaining.
Yeah. I saw him on a few things too. I feel like he was on the Daily Show. But yeah, when he was doing some promotion, I read some of that or I listened to some of that as well. So, all right, you convinced me. Now I have to add it to my list.
Very interesting individual.
Okay. I was just attended the ALA conference this year, which was in New Orleans, and I grabbed a book in the airport, and it was the Treadstone Transgression. Are you a Jason Bourne fan? Did you watch the Bourne movies or anything?
Actually, when we jump into our movie segment or our shows, I've been watching Treadstone.
Oh, the show.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, and it was surprisingly really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Treadstone Transgression is by Joshua Hood, but it's set in that Jason Bourne universe that Robert Ludlum created. And I read the Bourne Identity, the most famous one.
Yeah.
Forever ago, and I really enjoyed it, but I had never read any of these ones by other authors, but I just randomly picked this one up, and it was pretty good. Like it's not super deep or anything. It's just sort of like spy action, but it was perfect for a plane, so I had a good time.
Okay.
I've been meaning to watch the show because I think it's just one season, right?
Yeah, one season.
I like this podcast called Fat Man Beyond, and one of the co-hosts, Mark Bernardin, is a TV writer, and he'd written a lot of the Treadstone series, so I was like, oh, I gotta watch it. So how does it connect to the Bourne universe?
So basically how it connects is just Treadstone.
Okay.
So for people that not familiar,
Yeah.
Treadstone is just a program where they kind of make super soldiers.
Sort of like sleeper agents almost too, right?
Yeah,
Then
super
it's
soldiers,
kind of be
sleeper agents,
activated.
right.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Manchurian Candidate.
You're right. Yeah.
They just wake you up and
Yeah.
But yeah, it just kind of surrounds Treadstone and all the other programs that they have besides Jason.
Yeah.
And it's just a kind of another rogue agent trying to figure out what Treadstone is.
Okay.
And he lost his memory.
Right.
But it's a lot of spy stuff in there.
That's
a
always
lot
fun.
Of action,
Yeah.
great fight scenes. And it has like this realness to it where it doesn't feel like fantasy action.
Oh, okay.
It's like more real action, So
Yeah.
it's a little more believable.
Oh, that's cool.
I kind of love that element. And then there's a lot of spy stuff.
Yeah.
If you love that, going all around the world and
I've been sort of rediscovering some James Bond books in the last couple of months. So I think that's why I was like in the zone for this. But I liked it. There's 3 books in this Treadstone Transgression that follow the same character. And it was pretty cool. Did you like the Bourne movies?
I loved
back
it.
when they were coming out.
Yes.
Yeah,
I even loved the ones they did.
the Jeremy
other
Renner
ones
one.
that-
The Jeremy, yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah,
it's really good.
yeah, I remember
And
seeing
then he
those in
came back
theaters.
and did the last one,
Yeah.
which was really good too.
I didn't like that one as much,
Right.
but I still enjoy them. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They're
still
still
good.
pretty solid. Yeah. I'm currently reading a Star Wars book. My brother is turning 30, and so we're doing we always do this book club. My brother and 2 friends we're reading a Star Wars book called Padawan by Kirsten White. It's an Obi-Wan Kenobi story, and that's his favorite character. So we're gonna read that and talk about it. Did you watch the Obi-Wan show?
I did.
Did you like it?
I liked it.
I liked it too.
Out of all of the,
You pulled back on saying you loved it, but
well,
But you
'cause
did.
Only reason I did that is because I kind of I was mistaken, because my favorite one is the Boba Fett. And
that
I
blows
kinda
my
get
mind.
'em
I don't
mixed up sometimes.
not
Yeah,
the
I remember you said you
Mandalorian,
wasn't.
not the Mandalorian, but Boba Fett.
The Boba Fett is my favorite one.
Wow. Okay.
I like the Mandalorian and I like the Obi-Wan and now the newest one.
Interesting. Andor.
Andor.
I haven't watched Andor. Is it good?
To me it feels like the Mandalorian. Just the storylines is a little slower.
Yeah, it's longer
That's why I
too.
love
It's like
Boba
10
Fett.
episodes or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Boba Fett just felt like they introduced the characters.
Yeah.
And then it was action.
Yeah.
And you know they was things was going on.
I was surprised.
The other ones they just kind of breaking into the storyline a
True.
lot. So,
That's true. That's true. I was surprised how much of the Mandalorian storyline was picked up in Boba Fett. So the people who didn't watch Boba Fett but are watching the Mandalorian are going to be very confused when the new Mandalorian thing shows up. But okay, all right. I don't know. I'll probably get around to Andor. I just haven't been in the mood for it. I don't know.
It's not anything to be too excited about.
Yeah.
I mean, don't take my word for it because I didn't watch the whole season through.
Okay.
I just wasn't that
You didn't.
interested.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't even have the interest to continue the series, I think that gives me a pretty good idea. I feel like Obi-Wan, maybe I liked it as much as I did, in part because of the nostalgia. It was just cool to see Ewan McGregor back at it, and he did really good.
And I liked it. It was really good.
Yeah, it was good. It was
The
solid.
climax was worth the wait.
I would watch a season 2.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I've been while we're talking about Disney Plus series, I've been watching Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur with my son. Have you ever heard of? Do you know this at all?
You said Moon Girl?
Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Devil Dinosaur was a Marvel comic from the 70s that was kind of short-lived, and then they rebooted it with this one called Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, and that was a pretty popular graphic novel run. And now there's this series that is based on the reboot of Devil Dinosaur. And it's about this girl who's like a genius, and she's trying to invent something to help her neighborhood. And she accidentally opens a portal, and Devil Dinosaur comes through. And then they have like a bonding thing. But it's just really stylish. Like, it's got a really cool animation style. Like, it's definitely geared towards kids, but I'm loving it just as much as my son.
It's always a win-win.
It is. It really
always
is.
a win-win.
It's got great music. It's a very, I don't know, it's like a blend of, it feels like funk, R&B, and disco, like all kind of like twisted together. There's a playlist on Spotify, and it's just, it's so much fun.
See, I'm going to have to show my son that.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
Yeah,
like it.
I bet he'd dig it. It's really colorful, and it's funny, and there's enough like humor and stuff that appeals to me, too. So it's like not boring or anything, but
Okay.
yeah,
Sounds
so I'm
fun.
liking that. Have you watched any movies lately?
The last movie I actually watched was the Black Panther.
Oh, Wakanda Forever. Okay.
Wakanda Forever.
Let me hear it. What do
Definitely
you think?
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of good action.
Yeah.
When it comes to action movies, like I always say, for me, it's always about the villain.
Yeah.
So if there's good villains, for me, it's always a good movie.
Yeah.
Love the villain.
Yeah, they set Namor up pretty well. He was a cool nemesis, and you believed he was powerful.
He
And,
seemed and I love when they seem invincible and then they get beat.
yeah,
Because he
yeah.
just seemed like he was invincible.
What are you gonna do about? Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But he finally, good always wins.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a pleasure. And I watched it with my son.
Oh, okay.
And his mom. So,
Yeah.
It
Nice.
was a lot of fun.
I was not I mean, surprised in that it's never happened before, but Angela Bassett was nominated for an Academy Award.
I heard.
Nobody from a Marvel movie's ever been nominated before.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Yeah. No, it's never happened. I think the closest you get is Heath Ledger was nominated for The Dark Knight, which is not Marvel, but That's the only superhero movie that I can think of that had like an Academy Award nomination to it. So
yeah, that's
actually a
definitely
pretty big
groundbreaking.
deal. I mean, Angela Bassett's great. I feel like
For her to
everything
be a
she does
woman,
is
that's women are taking over.
That's true. That's true. And she was so good in that movie too.
Yeah.
Like she's really really deserving of that.
Yeah, you could feel the the hurt.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of sad.
It was.
There was a lot
of
sad elements to it.
The tribute they paid to Chadwick Boseman in the beginning was pretty rough.
Right.
Like it's how it all sort of faded and the Marvel logo having the picture. Oh, it was, definitely felt that. He was just so great.
Yeah,
he was so great. I mean, not just in that. Like he was just a great actor, but particularly I think in that role he really brought something special. So well, good. I'm glad you saw it. I'm glad you liked it.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
I watched You People on Netflix, the one with I love Eddie Murphy.
I seen that too.
And so, did you like it?
That was funny. Yeah.
It was like I always want like. I just want like an old school Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And he was very subdued in this one. So like I wanted more from that, but it's a great cast.
Right.
So did you like it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
And even with I understand exactly what you mean about Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
But I think it's more like he playing these mature roles now.
Yeah.
He's such an older guy.
Yeah.
A father.
Looks exactly the same.
It looks
he looks
exactly
exactly the same.
But it was such a funny movie and a great movie. And I think it touched on a lot of subjects that need to be talked about.
Yeah.
And it's just subjects that make us closer if we just
For
talk
sure.
about them.
Yeah.
So I just love the dynamic of that, the family and the in-laws.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Julia Louis-Dreyfus and David Duchovny as Jonah Hill's parents. I mean, those are great.
They were hilarious.
They really
It
were.
was such a funny movie.
Yep.
I loved
Yeah.
it.
That was pretty solid all the way around. We've been, my wife and I started watching Cheers forever ago and then stopped, and we recently just started watching Cheers again. Did you ever watch that back in the day?
The original Cheers?
Yeah, like old school Cheers.
So Cheers and MASH was the two shows every time they came on, I would turn the channel.
Oh, you didn't watch it? Didn't watch them at all? Okay.
I wasn't really into them, but as I got a little older and I started watching Cheers, I started to understand.
Yeah.
It was just that camaraderie of
Yeah,
friends and stuff like that. So, yeah, I would sit down and watch Cheers now.
I'm with you on MASH. That was for me, like Nick at Night or whatever. MASH
Like,
would
as soon
come
as
on, and
MASH
I'd be
came on,
like,
I was like, oh,
pass.
I'm done.
So what was your go-to? What was your go-to sitcom like back in the day? Teenage years.
Probably Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, I like yeah.
That and Family Matters.
Okay.
I wasn't a big Family Matters fan because the nerd.
Yeah,
wasn't
they went
as funny
they
to
went
me.
hard on Urkel. They really did.
Like,
yeah.
really. But my sisters loved it, so I ended up watching it a lot. But those two shows, and then Michael Keaton and Family Ties, I loved that show.
Oh yeah, Michael J. Fox. Yeah.
Michael J. Fox.
Yep.
Yeah. And he got a memoir now.
Yeah. I read it.
When I seen it the other day, I started thinking about Family Ties and Teen Wolf.
Oh yeah, I love Teen Wolf. I love Teen Wolf.
That was my thing.
You know what's crazy about Michael J. Fox? He filmed Family Ties and Back to the Future at the same time. Really? And so he filmed Family Ties like during the day and Back to the Future all night. Wow. So much of like the Back to the Future movie is in the night because like that's the only time they had Michael J. Fox. But yeah, pretty wild.
He was big back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Fresh Prince reunion that HBO Max did a while back?
I didn't. I seen the trailer, and then I knew some people that seen it.
Yeah.
I asked them about it, and they just said it was more like a drama. It wasn't.
Oh no,
comedy.
I don't mean no. There's that reboot on Peacock called Bel Air, which is like a serious version. But no, HBO Max did like the original cast got back together and just like reminisced.
No, I didn't see that. I didn't even know about
It's
that.
really good.
Oh, really?
It's really good and like more emotional than I expected it to be because like I too loved Fresh Prince. That was definitely like I have to watch that whenever it's on.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Even now, sometimes I don't watch it.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine like flipping through channels and seeing Fresh Prince and not stopping. So, yep, that makes perfect sense. Anything else on your watch or reading list we didn't cover?
Well, one thing I do have to mention.
Yes.
I want to say probably one of the best shows I've watched in the last 6 months. If you into old like medieval sword fighting, all that kind of stuff, Vikings Valhalla.
Oh, I know you love Vikings. You love the original.
The original Vikings,
yeah.
Yes. So Vikings Valhalla is basically, I think, a story a couple hundred years after Vikings.
Okay.
So it just kind of show you what's going on and how the Vikings were still invading England and pretty much running England. This is before England was united. So Yeah, Vikings Valhalla is a great movie. A lot of action in it, a lot of drama.
Yeah.
Great acting. It's really good.
I've never watched Vikings, but I think we have the DVD here. And I still have a DVD player, so maybe I'll
Yes, we do.
maybe I'll grab it.
We do. I think we have like all 7 seasons.
All right. Well, yeah, let's roll into it. Our featured author for this Black History Month Spotlight is Nic Stone.
All the Books presents Author Spotlight.
So, what is the first thing you said that you'd seen some interviews and things with her back when Dear Martin was on the challenge list? Was Fast Pitch the first book that you'd read by her?
Fast Pitch was the first book I read by her. Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty strong. I feel like she has a good grasp of writing for that like 8 to 12-year-old age. You know what I mean? Because her books tend to kind of target that audience, and that's kind of I feel like not as much focus is put on that age. You know what I mean? It's like picture books or YA get all the attention.
Yeah.
And she does have books geared towards a younger age as well, but I think those junior level books are really kind of like her bread and butter. Let me give you some facts on Nic Stone. She's originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and has a degree in psychology from Spelman University. I was just at the ALA conference, and she was like the opening speaker, her and Ibram X. Kendi, and she was wearing a Spelman University sweatshirt.
Yeah,
so
Spelman.
I can vouch for that. She lived in Israel for a time, and the history and the family stories that she picked up there encouraged her to write. I read this thing. She did a Q&A with some students. And this was in the Business Journal. There's a quote from her. She said she wrote her first novel for young adults in 2012. She said she was inspired by the Divergent series of books by Veronica Roth because unlike other dystopian novels and series, it was, quote, the first series I ever read where the black character lives all the way through the end.
I think I did. I think I seen that interview.
Which I think is just a really funny quote. And so she was like, okay, let's do this. So that cracks me up. Dear Martin was her debut book. And I read that, I don't know, I think when it came out in paperback. So not right in 2017, but probably in 2018 when it was still relatively
so that was her
new.
debut, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was really well received. It was sort of, I don't know, I feel like it was everywhere, like on all sorts of lists and things. Not just the banned list, but everybody was reading that one. And then she followed it up with Dear Justice, which the first book is about a kid writing letters to Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
And the second book, Dear Justice, is about a kid writing letters to Justice, the main character from Dear Martin. So they're kind of connected in that way. Dear Justice is a little bit more of an upbeat story because Dear Martin is, given the topic and everything, is just a more of a downer of a book, by its nature.
Right.
She was saying she at the ALA conference, she was telling a story about Dear Martin. She said that her kids aren't super interested in the books that she writes. They're like, whatever, like that's mom's job. I don't care. But she said she found a copy of Dear Martin in her son's backpack, like he was hiding it, like he wasn't supposed to have it or something. And she was like, you don't have to, it's okay. Like, you can read it. You can read it if you want. And he was like, no, it's not that. I just didn't like it and didn't want to tell you.
Oh, wow.
So she was like, read Dear Justice. It's more upbeat. You'll like it more.
Right. I did hear her say, like, if you could get anything out of that book, because they was talking about how it was on the banned books.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she was saying, if you could get anything out of that book, and then she say, open up to a certain page and a certain chapter, and she say, can't change how people think and act, but you're in full control of you. When it comes down to it, if nothing in the world changes, what kind of person are you going to be? And when she said that, that's just so profound. It's like that's basically the whole message of that book.
Yeah.
So when you get past the trauma of what's going on in the book, and the trauma of the reality of the things we face in America, that's really the main point of it. Just trying to be the best version of you despite what's going on around you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'll read the synopsis here for people who haven't read it. Justice McAllister is top of his class and set for the Ivy League, but none of that matters to the police officer who just put him in handcuffs. And despite leaving his rough neighborhood behind, he can't escape the scorn of his former peers or the ridicule of his new classmates. Justice looks to the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for answers, but do they hold up anymore? He starts a journal to Dr. King to find out. Then comes the day Justice goes driving with his best friend Manny, windows rolled down, music turned up, way up, sparking the fury of a white off-duty cop beside them. Words fly, shots are fired, Justice and Manny are caught in the crosshairs. In the media fallout, it's Justice who's under attack. So yeah, heavy book, not a light read, but I feel like the way it approaches the topic and everything is very approachable. You know what I mean? It's not like a daunting book to read, you know, and I think that's really one of her skills, like taking some of these heavy issues and putting them in a way that, regardless of your age, you can understand and get something out of it. Right. So I think it was on the banned list for being, you know, quote, anti-police, I think was the idea, right?
Yeah. And I guess some of the they felt like some of the subject matter was, like you said, it was just too intense for the youth, young readers.
Right.
So, because I guess it was like in a lot of schools all over.
Yeah. I mean, same thing. We were talking, I can't remember what episode, but we were talking about The Hate U Give and had a lot of the same kind of like, you know, response to that for similar reasons. But I was just so struck by her she and Ibram X. Kendi were the opening speakers at the ALA conference this year, and they were talking about adapting Ibram X. Kendi's book How to Be a Young Anti-Racist. She kind of made it for a younger group, and it becomes sort of a call and response narrative between the two of them. And she was just so thoughtful, and I just wanted to listen to them talk forever. You know, like their discussion about this book and about the writing process and everything was just so fascinating. And I feel like having books like this that, you know, you can read at a younger age, I think is so important.
Oh, yes.
You know, because
very important.
Kids, you know, are just more open. Yes. You know, that's just the way it is. So having things like this, I think is really crucial. But let's see. Yes. So Dear Martin, Dear Justice. She's written a trilogy of novels based on Shuri from the Black Panther comics and films.
Yeah, that looked interesting.
Yeah, we have them here. You can check them out from the David A. Howe Public Library. Several standalone novels aimed at middle grade, including Clean Getaway in 2020, Fast Pitch in 2021, and of course in 2023, the book How to Be a Young Anti-Racist came out, which is an adaptation of the original book. So yeah, busy and in demand she is as an author. We focused on Fast Pitch. This was the one that we decided to read together for this. So let me give you a quick synopsis of Fast Pitch, and then we can get into it a little bit here. Shanice Lockwood has her eyes set on the Fast Pitch World Series. As team captain, she'd like nothing more than to help her girls take home the trophy and the $10,000 prize money. And as one of the few brown faces on the field, it'd be a personal triumph to show up her rich white opponents. But Shanice's focus gets shaken when her Uncle Jack reveals that a family crime may have been a setup all along. Shanice will stop at nothing to uncover the past. The closer she gets to the truth, though, the furthest she gets from her goals for the future. From the New York Times bestselling author of Clean Getaway, Nic Stone seamlessly pairs the history of the Negro Leagues with the story of a contemporary black tween determined to blaze a trail of her own. This is kind of topical, too, because it wasn't that long ago that Major League Baseball and records and everything took those leagues in and like are including those stats with everything. It's like the first time that those are no longer separate. And so it changed a lot of records and things like that by incorporating that. So makes perfect sense. What did you think of the book?
I thought the book was amazing. When you think softball, you don't think like popular sport, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But the thing is with softball and the history of baseball in general, you know, softball coming from baseball and everything, it's just so much history when it comes to baseball in America. Yeah, it was America's favorite pastime.
Oh yeah.
So when it comes to baseball and this book being about, you know, racism and baseball, those two things was probably one of the first foundations for integration. Yeah. You know, even before a lot of the laws was passed, you know, a lot of guys was really fighting to get, you know, noticed in baseball and stuff like that back in the 50s, and 60s. So
it is kind of funny how like the need for baseball to continue sort of trumped all other things, you know, because when you look at like, you know, like there's that new A League of Their Own series that's on Prime right now. And it's like, well, we have to have baseball, so I guess we'll let women play, you know, and it's the same thing here. It's like we have to have the best team, so I guess we'll let black players play with white players. You know, it was like the need to continue baseball more than the need for like equality or whatever that like seemed to move it forward. But speaking of Chadwick Boseman earlier, the movie 42 about Jackie Robinson is great. It's so good.
That was a good movie.
And it really does a good job to sort of illustrate the landscape and like but just like you're saying, the importance of baseball in American culture and everything. So yeah,
Baseball, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Are you a baseball fan?
I am naturally a baseball fan. I don't watch baseball on the regular now.
Yeah.
But at heart, I will rather play baseball.
Okay.
I love playing softball.
Yeah.
Baseball.
Yeah.
I rather play than watch.
Yeah.
So I don't really follow the professional league.
Okay.
I follow the Phillies a little bit because I'm from Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of, have you recovered from the Eagles' loss in the Super Bowl, or how's that? This is a touchy topic.
I recovered.
Okay.
I recovered before the game was over because one thing with me is I just feel like, this is my personal opinion, I feel like I can see in someone if they want to win or not.
Oh, okay.
And when I look at you and I feel like you don't want to win, I already know you lost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
So
you weren't
I just-
getting the good vibes
the
from the
vibes
Eagles
I was
this year.
getting from them once they started the second quarter, I was like, nah, this
It's
not
done.
our night.
Huh.
This not our night.
Okay.
I
All
can
right.
just tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this certain energy you have when you know you're gonna win and you're gonna do everything in your power to win. It's just a different energy.
Yeah, yeah. All right. All right. Well, I'm glad you're doing all right.
Not devastated.
So, no. So one thing I liked about the book, I liked the balance of, because you're dealing with like racial issues and like, inequality and the way players are treated and things like that. And they're, the main character here is really trying to sort of like, not only does she want to win, but she wants to kind of prove herself as well, so you have that at play. The mystery element, like as she starts learning about family history and her Uncle Jack reveals this whole thing about how was her great grandfather that was set up, right, to keep him out of the main leagues.
It was either basically she come from 3 generations of baseball players.
Yes. Yeah.
And 2 generations before her, one of her uncles or one of her family members was so good that he was almost in the majors, or maybe trying to cross over,
right,
and ended up getting framed. And because he got framed, it ended his career.
Yeah.
So that's an element of mystery.
I liked it. And there's this whole like subplot about like trying to get the information from Uncle Jack, like where is this mystery baseball mitt that's supposed to like prove, that this was a setup and everything. So while all of the baseball stuff is happening, she's also trying to like solve this mystery. And I felt like it was a nice balance of multiple things going on at once,
But the genius of Nic Stone, just how she writes, is amazing. This is the stuff that when I read material like this, it make me want to be a better writer, because just the way was able to kind of have so many other subsets or other things going on besides the main plot, which was her playing baseball and trying to win. Then it was the element of her grandfather.
Yeah.
And then it was the element of her teammates making her captain, and then she was so distracted trying to figure out what happened with her family that her teammates started kind of losing faith in her ability to lead.
You're right. Yeah.
So it was that element too. So it's almost like trying to find the truth for a certain reason, but if you put too much energy into finding the truth, you can lose what you're fighting for in the first place.
Yeah.
So I just felt like it was all those little elements and struggles going on at the same time, and that's amazing when any writer can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think it has a lot of cross appeal. Like I could see, my 8-year-old son liking this book, but like it still worked for me. It was still like a good story and well written, as you said. As a bonus, I listened to about half and half. I read half and I listened to the audiobook, but Nic Stone actually reads the audio. So like it was that much more. Like you were pointing out before we started that she's posed as the character in the back of the book.
Right.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so she played baseball when she was young.
Yeah.
And one thing she said about writing, she said when she writing, and this is something about writing, when you writing, you can be anybody you want to be. It's almost like string theory.
Yeah.
Like you can create your own parallel universe.
Yeah. And
just imagine if your book becomes a bestseller like this.
Yeah.
It's almost like the characters become alive.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it, you know what I mean? It's a real reality.
Yeah.
So, that's the ability that writing gives you. It gives you the ability to be anybody you want to be.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. She spoke on that at the conference because adapting How to Be an Anti-Racist is a lot of like true stories that Dr. Kendi like experienced growing up and stuff. And so she was saying like she doesn't know if she ever wants to do that again because she likes the freedom of being able to just as you're saying, do whatever she wants, go where she wants to go, like have the stories naturally resolve. Whereas like, you know, real life does not. It's not as tidy as that. And so like justice isn't always served and everything. So she likes, you know, the fiction realm because she can really like get her point across and end it the way she wants it to end.
Right.
You know, which I think is a great point. Did it encourage you to pick up other things? Like, is this going to be an author you're going to add to your list?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Because so what I did, I read Fast Pitch first, but Clean Getaway, main character protagonist was a guy named Scoob.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess Scoob had a crush on Shanice.
Oh.
So these books is tied in, and it's like all the same universe.
Oh, okay.
So the main character from Clean Getaway had a crush on the main character from Fast Pitch.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I read them both, but I guess I wasn't thinking that they were connected, so I probably just didn't cross my mind that it was the same. I didn't
notice, but when I went back and I was kind of just skimming through Clean Getaway, that's when I noticed that parallel, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
well,
that
they
makes
do.
me really want to read.
The covers of the book and everything do look like they go together, like stylistically and everything they do. One bit of advice about Clean Getaway: don't do that audiobook because I was telling you this, but like that one is about a kid going on a trip with his grandma, and the voice the narrator does for the grandma is so grating. It's just like, oh, come on, Scoob. It was just, it was not. It was very annoying, and it was a lot because it was just for most of the book. It's just the two of them. It's like a two, so it
she
just
talks a lot.
Yeah, not great, not great. But the story was interesting.
Yeah,
the story was
a
interesting.
Very interesting story.
So yeah, I think it's definitely worth a read. I feel like of all the books I've read of hers, and I haven't read How to Be a Young Anti-Racist yet. I got an advanced copy at the conference, so like that's on my list. I feel like Dear Martin probably was the best that I would read, and I think like if I was going to recommend one, it would probably be Dear Martin. But I think that something like Fast Pitch has the benefit of tackling some of those same issues, but in a lighter, like more fun story.
Right.
But I don't think that she sacrifices like the importance of some of the elements in the book to make it a fun story. It's just overall the package is nicer, more fun.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and just like you said, it's subject matter. Fast Pitch is a story about young African American girls playing baseball in the mostly white league.
Yeah, right.
And, just trying to break barriers. And then Dear Martin is about, and it's so sad to even think a teenage boy going through, facing death.
Yeah.
And so that's two different subjects.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
I like I said, these books tend to be popular, and she keeps going. The Shuri books always look interesting to me. When we decided we were going to talk about her, I put a hold on the books, and the hold still hasn't come in yet. So I think they're just popular, but I could see picking up those.
Yeah, I really think Marvel has done a great job at just creating diverse.
Feels like it took them some time, but
yeah,
now that they're there,
I would say. I'm just an optimistic person. But I would say in my lifetime, I've been able to see multiple black heroes, something that I thought I would never see.
Yeah.
So that I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in like mainstream too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because
I could think of like, I remember when Shaquille O'Neal did that Steel movie.
Oh, man.
So that's not one to hang your hat on, but now, Yeah. So that's a good point. I mean, how does that change the experience for you? Like, is that,
and I know this sounds cliche and you hear it a lot, but you have to kind of look at it as this, if it was you, so seeing yourself portrayed as a hero, it sparks your imagination.
Yeah.
And it makes you believe that it's possible for you.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, I never looked at color that way. Mm-hmm. A superhero was a superhero to me.
Yeah.
And I always felt like I could be one too.
Yeah.
So I never really looked at that dynamic. But at the same time, I do understand how if I was young, if I would have seen more a
Yeah.
plus. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really imagine. I mean, I feel like that's something that, even looking back on it, it's weird that it's taken as long as it has to really do that. But the response to Black Panther was just like overwhelming. How meaningful it was to people, I think, is just amazing. And I think like I can't really put myself in the opposite position, but like when I've seen movies where there's not like, a plucky white guy and like, there's nobody that I see as like, oh yeah, that's like, I could play that character, or that's like, it is weird to not have that. So I can't really imagine the reverse experience where like you never have that until the movie Black Panther, in like 2019.
We had Spawn.
True. Okay, there you go.
In the 90s,
yeah,
but it didn't really go mainstream as much as we might have wanted it to.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really no representation there, as far as heroes.
Yeah.
So that's groundbreaking.
Well, and it's interesting too to look at like in Marvel and DC's history, like Black Panther is one of the earliest like mainstream. Like he was an Avenger. Like even in the 60s when he was made, like he was an Avenger and like had that status. But like that didn't really usher in like a new wave of diversity. You know what I mean? Like Black Panther kind of stands alone. And then when you look at DC, you have. Who do you even have? Like Black Lightning, I guess.
Black Adam, right? Is that he DC, right? No.
Yeah, he is, but he's kind of portrayed white in the early days.
In the comics.
In the comics,
you're right.
But like Black Lightning, I could think of like in the 70s was more of a character, but he's written by white authors as kind of a cliche. So like it takes so long.
Just like you said, kind of back to how you said about kind of seeing yourself on screen.
Yeah,
everything always goes back to Bruce Lee, right?
Sure.
When it comes to action.
With you for sure. Like you always find a way to get Bruce Lee in the conversation. So
we'll go back to Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
But so Bruce Lee was doing the Kato.
Yeah. The Green Hornet. Yeah.
Green Hornet show. Mm-hmm. He was playing Kato. And in America, it was the Green Hornet show.
Yeah.
But over in China, it was the Kato show. So all those Chinese kids was looking at Kato as a hero.
Yeah.
And it created a whole movement of people trying to be Kato, kids trying to be Kato, just because they seen a Chinese man as a superhero.
Yeah.
Right? So that's just an example of how seeing yourself portrayed can spark a movement.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's so true in like, the movements to like have more diverse books and things like that. I mean, the importance of that, I just think can't be overstated, because it's like, not only is it helpful for children of color, like seeing themselves represented, but for white kids being exposed to differences at an earlier age is also an important element to that, because like, I don't really think I was when I was a kid. Like the books that I was reading or the shows I was watching, there really weren't a lot of, characters that were not just like white kids. You know what I mean? So like you grow up a certain way, and it's when you experience that later, it's a very different thing from when you're like reading books as a kid and seeing that diversity right from the beginning. I think that's just so important for people to understand that like their perspective is not the only perspective. And I think that's particularly true for white kids. You know what I mean? That like that's something that they need to see. So
yeah, for sure. Just look at, even in music, look at, after Michael Jackson, the movement, black kids dancing and singing and trying to make it is, it's almost like once somebody opens that door, the rest of your ethnic group kind of tries to follow you.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's good for, all humans.
It's funny how it seems like even now it kind of takes, one person or one movie to kind of just like push through, and then floodgates open, and it's like, oh, we could do this if we wanted to. You know what I mean? Like
that's
you just
just
don't.
Human nature,
right?
I always go back to this story that this speaker Miles Monroe, he always tell the story about how the Olympic sprint record, it stayed like a certain time. Until like the 60s or something. This one guy broke the record, the sprint record. It was like a 40-yard dash or something.
Okay.
And after nobody had ever broke it, after he broke it, that record, it got broken like 16 times in the next couple of years. Yeah. And I was like, once people see it can be done, then people kind of, follow suit. And
I wonder if we're going to see that with LeBron James just breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record. Like, is that going to Is that going to stay? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean that's specialty, right? That's top tier.
Yeah.
Is that's a lifetime of work.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. Wow. We covered a lot.
Yeah.
The book we started talking about is Fast Pitch by Nic Stone. So we have that in a collection of her works here in the library. Any final thoughts on Fast Pitch or Nic Stone?
It's a great book, great read. Got a little comedy in there, got some mystery in there, got some diversity in there.
Yeah.
So it's a great book, I think, for young adults and adults.
Yeah, agreed.
You learn a lot from it.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, Malik, always good to have you on the show. Thanks for joining me. Poetry Month.
It's a pleasure. Yes.
It's just around the corner. We got to do
I'm
it.
so excited.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of How's Things. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Hey, gang, stick around for a quick preview of our new show, But Have You Tried? From the David A. Howe Public Library, hosted by me and Malik Fesmeyer. Remember to search for the show, But Have You Tried? Wherever you get your podcasts. Now, here it is.
Hi, I'm Allie.
I'm Nick.
And you're listening to But Have You Tried? The new podcast from the David A. Howe Public Library.
It is. It's shiny and new, and here we are.
It's practically sparkling.
Allie, I've been trying to figure out, like, what do we call this episode? Because this is not a teaser, it's not a trailer, but it's also not a full episode. This isn't like the true first episode. So what is it, a prologue?
Episode 0?
Is
or
it
a prologue?
Is it an epilogue of How's Things and a prologue for But Have You Tried? What is it?
Maybe. I would lean toward episode 0 or prologue, depending
I
if you
like
wanna
episode
do,
0. I like episode
Well,
0.
because in, like, certain...
Feels a little like Patient 0, but okay.
Maybe.
I mean, it'll spread.
Hopefully it'll spread.
Yeah, hopefully.
We're
Hopefully.
just too soon for epidemic jokes.
I think
anyway,
it is. I think it is. Yeah. Anyway,
so,
what?
I don't know. I just
Okay.
I say anyway to change.
You were so
this,
bold.
to
You so
change
boldly
the
jumped
topic,
in there with
even
anything.
if I have no plan for where it's going.
Nowhere to go. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell them.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
So yeah, we're launching this new podcast, and in it, Allie and I are going to be trading off things that we're like, oh, you have to watch this, or you have to listen to this, or you have to eat this, or whatever. And since we don't have an episode before this, we needed a little something here to introduce what our first topic is going to be. So Allie, I know that you have a lot of vintage tastes, right?
I think that's accurate to
and
say.
I have vintage tastes.
This is true.
But mine, I feel like maybe are a couple of decades before yours, which makes sense. And I feel like yours tend to lean more like BBC vintage, and mine is more
That's
like
true.
45 record vintage. Would you say?
I'd say that's a good characterization.
So I know you like old school stuff. I know that you like some old music. But have you tried Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll?
Not really.
Nothing.
To be honest. Well, okay. And there's Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. That's what I
That,
got for
that's
you.
Elvis. Yeah, that's an Elvis
Yeah,
song.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
How do you know that song?
I think when I was a kid, I had this CD
Okay.
that was like
I'm familiar. Yeah.
animal something.
Okay.
And so it was just like a random collection of songs that had anything to do with animals. So it was like Rockin' Robin
Okay.
and like
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah.
other things that
By the original artist, like by Elvis and by, whoever.
maybe not actually. To
Okay,
be
but the
honest.
song.
But
All
the
right.
songs.
Okay.
I have heard Elvis's version, but I can't remember if that was the one on the CD.
I
or
see.
not.
Elvis famously never wrote his own music. He always had songwriters. Like Blues Suede Shoes, which is one of his like early hits, was a Carl Perkins song that nobody cared about, and then he did it, and it was like, what a big hit. So I don't know who wrote Hound Dog, but that is one of the enduring ones, and probably one of the earliest ones that I knew of and liked, like for that reason. Hound Dog and Blue Suede Shoes, probably. There. What about like Lilo and Stitch? That used a lot of Elvis music.
I don't think I've seen Lilo and Stitch.
It's not great, but the thing is, like, people started like listening to Elvis again because of that, because it's so like Elvis heavy. But
It's like a Stranger Things with Kate Bush moment.
yes, I guess so. A name that I never heard before Stranger Things. So
my mom liked Kate Bush, so it was like a
Okay.
kind of a household name growing up.
Yeah,
And then I was
all
like,
right.
wait, you mean other people know about Kate Bush now?
suddenly Mrs. Stevick is hip. She's with it. Okay. I'm trying to think back, like what. I mean, we'll get into it in the proper episode when we really get there. But I truly feel like Elvis is one of those things that it was just like elemental to me. Like I don't remember a time before I like knew and liked Elvis songs. Probably had my grandma to thank for that. She was born in the early mid 40s, I guess. And so when Elvis really hits in like 57, 58, and of course into the 60s, she would have been the perfect age. So like Elvis to her was like Elvis. And so I just remember a lot of like making banana bread and my grandma made these gross cookies that No, it's okay.
I'm interested to hear where this
I
is
wish
going.
that people could have seen your face when I said my grandma makes gross cookies. She just makes a certain variety of cookies that are gross. The majority of her cookies and baked goods are good, but she makes these cookies that I swear nobody likes, but she makes them all the time, and they're like cornflakes in them.
Oh.
Because I'm from Battle Creek, Michigan, home of the cornflake.
I like a good cornflake.
Cornflakes in them and like maraschino cherry. Does that sound good to you? No.
How are the cornflakes incorporated?
The cornflakes are like mixed in the batter, but like they're also
like cornflake cookies.
Yeah, they're also like sticking out the top of it, so they're like.
Sense.
So it's a cookie with a mushy cherry in the center and baked cornflakes that tear up your mouth as you eat them. Not the point, but the point is I remember listening to a lot of Elvis songs while making those horrible cookies.
Making the gross cornflake cookies.
Yeah. So then just as it went on, I had Elvis like cassettes. I listened to it on the radio, CDs, records as they came along. I really got into the Elvis movies, and there's like 30 of them, and they're all exactly the same. Elvis has this quote where he's being interviewed, and they're like, Elvis, have you ever played a character like this before? And he's like, yeah, about 28 times, which I think is really funny.
At least he's self-aware,
to just have it on Front Street, A lot of them are bad. Some of them are like embarrassing. Some of them are like offensive now, but a couple of them are really good. So if you were going to watch some Elvis movies, and I don't know, how deep are you prepared to go?
I'm not
How
sure.
seriously are you going to take this?
This is something we'll have to figure out as we do this podcast.
I think there are deeper dives that you could take, but if I was gonna just start you out, I would say listen to that compilation. It's just like one, like Elvis. It's like a gold cover, and it's all the #1 hits, and that's a pretty good overview. And then if you wanted to go a little deeper, there was a follow-up called Second to None, which is a little bit more like songs that didn't quite hit #1, but were like maybe B-sides or songs that just kind of like picked up steam over time. So I would say if you're going to go compilations, I would look at those 2 albums. If you're going to go movies, the best one is probably Viva Las Vegas. It's Elvis and Anne Margaret at sort of like the height of the Elvis-ness. It's the most like legit movie. Like it feels more like a movie than a lot of the other ones do.
Okay.
The other ones are just sort of like, Elvis, you got to drive this race car. And he's like, all right, come on now. And that's pretty much the whole plot. He sings, he punches people, he kisses the girl, and that's it.
Makes sense.
Viva Las Vegas, because Anne Margaret was such a presence, it's a little bit more of a, like, she's truly like a co-lead.
Well, good for her.
Yeah. And they had a real thing. It was a scandal.
Okay.
So I would say that, and if you want a more serious one where he like is really acting, then I would say Change of Habit, where he plays a doctor in a rough neighborhood, and Mary Tyler Moore plays a nun in disguise.
Oh.
Yeah, and
a nun in disguise.
I'm
here for that. That
because
sound intriguing.
Yeah, there's like these 3 nuns, and it's like we're not connecting with these people, so why don't you sort of go undercover as just like an average Joe, average Jane, and that's what it is.
That's a really interesting strategy.
Elvis doesn't know that she's a nun, and maybe there's romance.
Oh dear!
But of course she's a nun,
that's
so
a problem.
I love Change of Habit. It's also not a musical. It's it's like that one and Charo, which is a Western, are not musicals. He like sings a song, but it's the rest of them are like, all right, let's sing about a clam bake. So
makes sense.
Different.
I don't know why you wouldn't sing about a clam bake.
I know it's exciting times. So how do you feel? How do you feel going into this? What do you think your takeaway is going to be when you really start looking into Elvis Presley?
In terms of whether I'm going to be like,
are you going to like it? Are you going to find anything in it? Are you going to be like, yeah, that's pretty much what I thought Elvis was?
I feel like probably I'll like it, but I don't know if it'll be like, yeah, this is my.
You won't add
this
it.
Is my
you won't add
jam
it to your list or whatever.
It might not go on my like frequent rotation.
All right.
I don't know. We'll see.
All
maybe it will.
I feel like maybe you'll like Elvis more than you think you will. Have you seen the Baz Luhrmann, the Elvis biopic? That's up for Academy Awards and things.
Nope.
We have it here on glorious digital video disc.
Oh wow.
So and it is good, but like Elvis is a tragic story. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's also kind of a downer.
I will say,
yes.
The other thing I know about Elvis, besides Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog, is I really like the band The High Kings, which is like an Irish band.
Okay, that makes sense for your
This
brand.
is the other genre that I listen to besides jazz,
Yeah. Irish music. Irish music and jazz.
Pretty much. It's like, do I want to be, like in the like classic sort of like mystery, jazz, in the nightclub,
mystery.
like, well, I'm thinking like a hard boiled,
like a noir kind of.
Right, in a noir. Do I want to be there, or do I want to be like frolicking in the fields
Okay.
In my peasant dress.
And that's Irish music.
Those are those are my two moods.
Peasant dress or noir mystery are the only two settings that you have.
Only two settings. So every day you can just ask yourself, which is it today?
I think I would have better luck finding Elvis jazz feeling music rather than Elvis Irish feeling music.
It is an odd combination.
It is.
But here's the funny thing.
Okay.
They have this song, the name of which I don't remember.
Oh,
I think it's Galway to Graceland. And it's about this woman who's like obsessed with Elvis and thinks she's married to him. And when he dies, she like travels and like tries to go to his funeral and is like yelling at everyone, being like, he's my husband or whatever. And everyone's like, lady, you're crazy.
Wow.
That's the whole song.
Okay.
And
so that's another Elvis connection.
That's another
that you
Elvis
have.
connection.
What about like Walking in Memphis? Do you know that song?
I don't know.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge. Maybe.
Okay. This is going to be a journey that we're going to take together. I really feel like it's going to be an interesting one. Don't tell me yet, but have you decided what you're going to assign me after Elvis, or are you going to wait and see how Elvis goes and decide?
I might wait and see how Elvis goes.
Okay. All right, so you have got about a month to dig into some Elvis music and movies and facts and whatever you want to do, and then come back here, report your findings back to me, and we'll dig deep into the life and loves of Elvis Presley. And then you're going to have to grade it. You're going to have to tell me what you think. This episode is scheduled to drop on March 13th. So you have, just a little over a month at our time of recording.
So listeners, if you want to follow along and also dive into some Elvis stuff, the assignment is, let's see, 1.
Yeah.
Second to None.
Yes.
Viva Las Vegas.
That's right.
And Change of Habit.
Change of Habit.
And anything else that
anything else. Anything goes. Okay. Yeah, you bring something Elvis to me, I'll know about it. Okay. So you don't have to worry.
See, I feel like that's just a challenge for me to find the one Elvis
the most obscure Elvis thing. You can follow the library on Facebook at David A. Howe Public Library. We'll be posting things about the show on there. You can also follow us on Twitter at DA Howe Library. We'll be putting maybe some polls and things like that up there in the future. So thanks for joining us in our, what did we decide? Episode 0. Episode 0 of But Have You Tried? All right. Allie, have a hunka hunka.
What just happened?
Good. I was trying to make it like an Elvis pun and I failed. All right. Best of luck to you.